Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Seeking assistance and blessings by every name of Allah, the possessor of limitless mercy, the bestower of mercy. I begin. This majlis is being presented under the heading A Few Thoughts to accompany two very short Arabic poems about studying Islam. A few thoughts to accompany two very short Arabic poems about studying Islam. The two poems were authored by our teacher, the Sheikh Muhammad Ali Adam, rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy upon him. And this majlis is being delivered today to our esteemed audience. Today, the 14th of Shaybah, 1445 Hijri, corresponding to the 24th of February 2024. This majlis is being presented as part of the seminar being held by the Keys to Knowledge, al-Miftahu ila al-Ilm, or al-Mafatihu ila al-Ilm. And this concept of al-Miftah or al-Mafatih is actually a useful one with regards to the topic that will be covered in this majlis with Allah's assistance. And that will become clear as we begin a discussion of some preliminary thoughts before actually getting into the poems themselves. Now, what I'd like to do is I would like to present about 8 preliminary thoughts, about 8 of them, or perhaps about 7, and then at the end we will kind of briefly recap. The reason I would like to present these preliminary thoughts before getting into the poems themselves is because the poems, insha'Allah, they are fairly straightforward to understand with Allah's assistance. However, there are some things which we find in the Quran and in the statements of our scholars, and keeping those things in mind before reading the poems will assist us in seeing some of the meanings that the poems contain. So I will present these thoughts first, and we'll begin with preliminary thought number 1. We're going to be dealing with 2 poems. The title of poem 1 is فائدة في إرشاد طالب العلم إلى طريق فتح باب العلم والفهم. We rendered that title into English as Teaching a Student How to Have the Gates of Knowledge and Comprehension Opened. And the title of poem 2 is فائدة في إرشاد طالب علم الحديث إلى طريق فتح بابه. We rendered that title into English as Directing the Student of Hadith on how to have its gates opened. So both of these titles in Arabic, they had this word fath. And the word miftah and mafatih, they come from the same root letters in Arabic. So these 2 poems, they share this common element of something being opened for a person by Allah. Something being opened. This is preliminary thought 1. Preliminary thought number 2. In the context of what we will discuss in this majlis, When we say something is opened, when we say it has been opened, what we mean is it has been unlocked. And otherwise, it would remain locked. If it has been opened, it has been unlocked. It has been unlocked. Otherwise, it would remain locked. This is an important concept to keep in mind. Opening here, it means unlocking something that would otherwise be locked to us. And I think for all of us, it's fairly simple to understand that when something is locked to you, it means that you are on the outside, and that's where you stay until it's open for you. Otherwise, you can't enter. Preliminary thought 3. Among the names of Allah that He has informed us of is Al-Fattah. Al-Fattah. And according to the explanations that the scholars of Islam have given for this name, we can render its meaning into English as the one who gives judgment in many ways and opens many things for his servants. Al-Fattah is the one who gives judgment in many ways and opens many things for his servants. So just to kind of keep us on track in terms of where we were going, we began by saying in these thoughts that both of the poems have this shared element of having something being opened by Allah. And we said that being opened basically means being unlocked. Being unlocked. And otherwise, it will be locked for us. We wouldn't be able to get in. And what we just mentioned was that part of what Allah's name Al-Fattah means is that He opens many things for His servants. Preliminary thought number 4. When Allah opens something for His servant, there is no limit to how much Allah will open. This concept can be understood from the Quran. Allah said, مَا يَفْتَحِ اللَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ مِنْ رَحْمَةٍ فَلَا مُمْسِكَ لَهَا مَا يَفْتَحِ اللَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ مِنْ رَحْمَةٍ فَلَا مُمْسِكَ لَهَا. Regarding any mercy that Allah may open for people, none can withhold it. Regarding any mercy that Allah may open for people, none can withhold it. So the idea here is that when Allah opens something that He chooses to open for any of His servants that He wants, there is no limit to how much Allah will open, how much Allah will bestow, how much Allah will grant. Preliminary thought number 5. Regarding Allah's name Al-Fattah, the one who gives judgment in many ways and opens many things for His servants, the renowned scholar Abdurrahman ibn Nasr al-Sa'di, may Allah have mercy upon him, he made a comment regarding this name of Allah, Al-Fattah, in a book of his called Fathur Rahim al-Malik al-Allam. This is not his tafsir that's commonly known. This is a different book. It's much smaller than the tafsir. Now, in that book, the author, As-Sa'di, may Allah have mercy upon him, was discussing the meanings of Allah's name Al-Fattah. And in his discussion, he cited Allah's statement that we just mentioned, ما يفتح الله للناس من رحمة فلا ممسك لها, regarding any mercy that Allah may open for people, none can withhold it. After As-Sa'di rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, cited that statement of Allah, he then made the following comment. يفتح لعباده منافع الدنيا والدين فيفتح لمن اختصهم بلطفه وعنايته أقفال القلوب ويدر عليها من المعارف الربانية والحقائق الإيمانية ما يصلح أحوالها وتستقيم به على الصراط المستقيم. وأخص من ذلك أنه يفتح لأرباب محبته والإقبال عليه علوما ربانية وأحوالا روحانية وأنوارا ساطعة وفهوما وأذواقا صادقة. The way that we would choose to render that meaning into English is Allah opens for His servants what benefits them in matters of this world and in matters of Islam. Thus, regarding those whom Allah favors with special care from Himself, He opens the locks of their hearts, and He gives their hearts a very large share of the sound understanding that is bestowed by Him as the Supreme Lord over all people. He also gives their hearts a very large share of the realities of Iman, accepting and complying with the truth from Him. What He grants those people sets the state of their hearts in order and enables them to traverse the one straight path that leads them to Allah without any diversions. Something even more special than the preceding is granted to Allah's servants who do much to attain Allah's love and keep their focus on Him. He opens for them numerous types of knowledge that come only from the Supreme Lord of all people. He opens for them numerous states that are of benefit to their souls. He opens for them numerous forms of light that shine brilliantly. And He opens for them numerous perspectives by which they are able to recognize what is true. This is the end of what we wanted to cite from the remarks made by Shaykh Abdul Rahman As-Sa'di, may Allah have mercy upon him. So in this segment that we mentioned of his remarks, he made reference to two types of Allah's servants here. One was those whom Allah favors with special care from Himself. He opens for those servants the locks of their hearts. He opens the locks of their hearts. And part of what that includes is giving their hearts sound understanding and giving their hearts a share of the realities of Iman, accepting and complying with the truth from Allah. So here we see that As-Sa'di had mentioned Allah opens the locks of their hearts, and part of what that includes is granting their hearts sound understanding. As-Sa'di rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, later made reference to Allah's servants who do much to attain Allah's love and keep their focus on Him. As-Sa'di mentioned among the things that Allah opens for those servants, Allah opens for them numerous types of knowledge, numerous states that are of benefit to their souls, numerous forms of light, and numerous perspectives by which they can recognize what's true. So these all have sort of the common element, knowledge that Allah is granting, comprehension. Reference was also made here to light, and this will come in a subsequent idea. Preliminary idea number 6. Among the crucial aspects of Allah's mercy that He opens for people are 1. Sound comprehension of Islam, and 2. Proper intention towards Allah. And those two are among the greatest blessings granted by Allah. Sound comprehension of Islam and proper intention towards Allah. On top of that, sound comprehension is light from Allah. Sound comprehension is light. This is going to come later on in our discussion, inshallah, soon. Now, a very pertinent remark was made by the renowned scholar of Islam, al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy upon him. The comment that I will cite can be found in Ibn al-Qayyim's book entitled I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in. For those who want to refer to it later on, you can find it in the critical edition of I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in that was prepared by Sheikh Mashhur Hassan al-Salman, hafizahullah, may Allah preserve him. In his critical edition, this passage can be found on page 164 of volume 2. Volume 2, page 164. And in the critical edition, that's part of the large collection of Ibn al-Qayyim's works that was prepared according to the method set down by Sheikh Bakr Abu Zayd, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him. In the critical edition of I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, as part of that collection, it can be found in volume 1, page 188 of the edition as part of that collection. That collection is the one that was published by Dar Alim al-Fawaid, and I think now the publisher is called Ata'at al-Ilm. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah said, صحة الفهم وحسن القصد من أعظم نعم الله التي أنعم بها على عبده، بل ما أعطي عبد عطاء بعد الإسلام أفضل ولا أجل منهما، بل هما ساق الإسلام وقيامه عليهما، وبهما باين العبد طريق المغضوب عليهم الذين فسد قصدهم، وطريق الضالين الذين فسدت فهومهم، ويصير من المنعم عليهم الذين حسنت أفهامهم وقصودهم، وهم أهل الصراط المستقيم الذين أمرنا أن نسأل الله أن يهدينا صراطهم في كل صلاة. وصحة الفهم نور يقذفه الله في قلب العبد يميز به بين الصحيح والفاسد والحق والباطل والهدى والضلال والغي والرشاد، ويمده حسن القصد وتحري الحق والتقوى الرب في السر والعلانية، ويقطع مادته اتباع الهوى وإيثار الدنيا وطلب محمدة الخلق وترك التقوى. The way we would choose to render that meaning into English is sound comprehension of Islam and proper intention towards Allah are among the greatest blessings that Allah bestows upon any servant of His. In fact, after being blessed with Islam, a servant of Allah is not granted any blessing that is more virtuous or significant than those two. Not only that, the two of them comprise the two main foundations upon which a person's Islam stands. The two of them enable a person to keep away from the path of the people who are described in Surah Al-Fatiha as al-Maghdubi alayhim, those who incur anger, those being individuals whose intentions became corrupted, and also away from the path of the people described as ad-dallina, those who are astray, those being individuals whose comprehension became corrupted. By avoiding such paths, a person would be among the people described as الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ, those upon whom you, Allah, bestowed your favor. Those being individuals who have both sound comprehension and proper intention. They are the people of the one straight path, and guidance to and along the path that they follow is something that we have been instructed to beseech Allah for in every prayer that we perform. Furthermore, sound comprehension is light that Allah casts into the heart of His worshiping servant, and it enables that servant to distinguish sound from corrupt, truth from falsehood, guidance from misguidance, and deviation from direction. The aforementioned sound comprehension is nurtured by way of proper intention, seeking out the truth, and observing taqwa of our Lord, whether we are in private or public. Observing taqwa of our Lord meaning protecting ourselves against His punishment by fulfilling His commands and avoiding His prohibitions. In addition, the aforementioned sound comprehension is depleted by following inclinations that involve disobedience to our Lord, giving things of this world priority over Him, seeking recognition from people, and forsaking taqwa. This is the end of the remark from al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim. May Allah have mercy upon him. Now we're going to come to this idea about sound comprehension being light. And on top of that, we want to understand that the light that is granted by Allah, that light that Allah grants is what gives a person true life. So this is going to be preliminary thought number 7. The light granted by Allah is what gives a person true life. Now, in this preliminary thought here, I'm going to mention 2 ayat from Surah Al-An'am, along with what a scholar of Islam has said about each one. 2 ayat, and in reality not 2 full ayat, a part of one ayah and a part of another ayah. At the beginning of Surah Al-An'am, in ayah number 1, Allah said, Alhamdulillahi alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal-arda wa ja'ala adh-dhulumati wan-nura. All praise belongs to Allah who created the heavens and the earth and made the darknesses and the light. وَجَعَلَ الظُّلُمَاتِ وَالنُّورَ, and made the darknesses and the light. regarding that portion of the ayah, وَجَعَلَ الظُّلُمَاتِ وَالنُّورَ, and made the darknesses and the light. Al-Imam al-Sa'di, may Allah have mercy upon him, commented in his tafsir, وَذَلِكَ شَامِلٌ لِلْحِسِّيِّ مِنْ ذَلِكَ كَاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ وَالشَّمْسِ وَالْقَمَرِ، والمعنوي كظلمات الجهل والشك والشرك والمعصية والغفلة، والنور العلم والإيمان واليقين والطاعة. That includes tangible forms, such as the night and day, as well as the sun and moon. It also includes intangible forms, such as the darknesses of jahl, being ignorant regarding the truth, shak, having doubt regarding the truth, shirk, ascribing partners to Allah, ma'siyah, disobeying Allah, and ghafla, being heedless. And it includes intangible forms such as the light of ilm, having knowledge of the truth, iman, accepting and complying with the truth, yaqeen, being certain regarding the truth, and ta'ah, obeying Allah. That's the end of the remark from Sa'di, may Allah have mercy upon him. That's what he mentioned about the portion of ayah number 1 in Surah Al-An'am that says, وَجَعَلَ الظُّلُمَاتِ وَالنُّورَ, and made the darknesses and the light. Later on, in ayah 122 of Surah Al-An'am, Allah said, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ كَمَنْ مَثَلُهُ فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا. In addition, if a person was dead, then we, Allah, gave him life, and we set for him a light by which he is able to walk among the people and find his way clearly. Could that person be considered the same as someone else who is in the darknesses, remaining unable to find any way out? We'll say that again. In addition, if a person was dead, then we, Allah, gave him life, and we set for him a light by which he is able to walk among the people and find his way clearly. Could that person be considered the same as someone else who is in the darknesses, remaining unable to find any way out? With respect to this portion of Ayah 122, we will have a look at what was mentioned by Al-Imam Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy upon him. In Ibn Kathir's tafsir of this ayah, he first noted that this is a similitude presented by Allah for a person of Iman, someone who accepts and complies with the truth from Allah, who was initially dead, and Allah subsequently gave him life. Ibn Kathir explained the portion of the ayah that says, أَوَمَنْ كَانَ مَيْتًا فَأَحْيَيْنَاهُ. In addition, if a person was dead, then we, Allah, gave him life, to mean that he was dead in the sense of being فِي الضَّلَالَةِ هَالِكًا حَائِرًا, in the depths of misguidance, ruined and utterly lost. But then Allah gave him life in the sense of أحيا قلبه بالإيمان, وهداه له ووفقه لاتباع رسله. Allah gave him life in the sense of giving life to his heart by way of it having iman, meaning by way of his heart accepting and complying with the truth, guiding him to that iman and granting him the special assistance required to follow Allah's messengers. Ibn Kathir then explained regarding the portion of the ayah that says, وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُ نُورًا يَمْشِي بِهِ فِي النَّاسِ, and we set for him a light by which he is able to walk among the people and find his way clearly. That the person mentioned, يَهْتَدِي بِهِ كَيْفَ يَسْلُكُ وَكَيْفَ يَتَصَرَّفُ بِهِ. The person mentioned finds direction from that light regarding how to proceed along his path, and he is able to conduct himself properly by way of it. Ibn Kathir also mentioned two explanations for Nuran, a light, in this ayah, those being the Quran and Islam. And he said, وَالْكُلُّ صَحِيحٌ, each of them is correct. He then explained the portion of the ayah that says, فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ, in the darknesses, to mean الجهالات والأهواء والضلالات المتفرقة, the various types of ignorance, disobedient inclinations, and misguidance. He further explained the portion of the ayah that says, لَيْسَ بِخَارِجٍ مِنْهَا, remaining unable to find any way out, to mean that such a person لا يهتدي إلى منفذ ولا مخلص مما هو فيه. That person cannot find any direction to anything that would allow him to escape or be saved from the state he is in. A bit later on, Ibn Kathir remarked that ووجه المناسبة في ضرب المثلين ها هنا بالنور والظلمات ما تقدم في أول السورة وجعل الظلمات والنور. Presenting similitudes here for those two types of people by making reference to light and darknesses is related to what preceded at the beginning of the surah. And Allah made the darknesses and the light. That concludes the remarks we wanted to cite from Ibn Kathir's commentary. May Allah have mercy upon him. And with that, the 7 preliminary thoughts I wanted to mention before getting into the poems has now been completed. The 7 thoughts have now been completed. Now an 8th thought we can mention, or that would be worth mentioning, is kind of a short recap of some of the ideas mentioned just now. This is a short recap of just some of the concepts. And what I'm about to say, it's not all of what was mentioned, and the concepts I will now list are not entirely in the same order as what was presented. But the short recap I would like us to keep in mind right now is this. Allah unlocks many things, and none can withhold the amount of what He chooses to unlock for someone. Then, part of that is knowledge and comprehension. Then, having a proper intention towards Allah is part of what nurtures sound comprehension of Islam. Then, sound comprehension of Islam is a type of light granted by Allah. And then, light granted by Allah is what gives true life. I hope by Allah's assistance that some of those thoughts will contribute to us having a bit of perspective regarding the contents of these two poems. And we'll now have a short discussion of what they say. The first of these two very short Arabic poems starts on page 28 in part one of the book entitled Al-Fawaid al-Samiyya, and it goes over onto page 29. The first poem is entitled Fa'idatun fi irshadi talib al-ilmi ila tariqi fathi bab al-ilmi wal-fahmi, which we rendered into English as teaching a student how to have the gates of knowledge and comprehension opened. We will cover this poem in 3 segments. The first segment will be lines 1 to 4. The author, our teacher, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Adam, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, يا من يريد فتح باب العلم وأن يكون بارعا في الفهم فتتق الله وتلزم السنن وابتعدا عن أهل سوء وفتن وتسلكا في الهدي نهج السلف وتبتعد عن ابتداع الخلف فكل خير في اتباع من سلف وكل شر في ابتداع من خلف. I say to anyone who wishes to have the gates of knowledge opened for him and be outstanding in comprehension, you must observe taqwa of Allah and adhere to the teachings of His Messenger. May Allah mention him with commendation and grant him protection. And you must remain far away from people known for causing ills and trials. You must ensure that the path you follow is the one traversed by the foremost generations of Islam. And you must avoid what those who came later on invented and then claimed to be part of the religion. All goodness lies in following the course traversed by the foremost generations of Islam, while all ills lie in adopting what those who came later on invented and then claimed to be part of the religion. In this segment, reference was made to al-ilm, knowledge. And in this context, that refers to knowledge of Islam. Knowledge of Islam. And that revolves around the Quran, the Sunnah, and correctly understanding the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah pertaining to beliefs, statements, and actions. This is what we mean when we talk about al-ilm. This is the default meaning of al-ilm in the context of our discussion. It revolves around the Quran, the Sunnah, and correctly understanding the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah pertaining to beliefs, statements, and actions. Reference was also made here to taqwa of Allah, and we did not render that word into English. And it proceeded earlier on in the preliminary thoughts that observing taqwa of Allah means protecting oneself from Allah's punishment by fulfilling His commands and avoiding His prohibitions. So the advice given said, you must observe taqwa of Allah and adhere to the teachings of His Messenger. May Allah mention him with commendation and grant him protection. And you must remain far away from people known for causing ills and trials. You must ensure that the path you follow is the one traversed by the foremost generations of Islam. The foremost generations of Islam are called the Salaf in Arabic, and they are considered the best of people, since the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah mention him with commendation and grant him protection, had said, the best of people are my generation, then those who follow them, then those who follow them. So the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, had said, you must ensure that the path you follow is the one traversed by the foremost generations of Islam. And you must avoid what those who came later on invented and then claimed to be part of the religion. Those who came later on are called the Khalaf in Arabic. And in this context, they refer to the people who came after the Salaf and contravened their course. The Khalaf, in the context of this discussion, refers to the people who came after the Salaf and contravened their course. Regarding things that are invented and then claimed to be part of the religion, that includes all beliefs, statements, and actions that have no legitimate basis in Islam's teachings, but are alleged to be part of the religion. All statements, beliefs, and actions that have no legitimate basis in Islam's teachings, but are alleged to be part of the religion. Such matters are referred to as bid'ah in Arabic. So the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, had said, all goodness lies in following the course traversed by the foremost generations of Islam, the Salaf, while all ills lie in adopting what those who came later on invented and then claimed to be part of the religion. This preceding segment, lines 1 to 4, contains several guidelines regarding learning. 1. Observing taqwa. 2. Adhering to the sunnah. 3. Avoiding people whose beliefs, statements, or actions Islam's teachings consider blameworthy. 4. Following the path of the Salaf in beliefs, statements, and actions. And 5. Avoiding beliefs, statements, or actions that people invent and then claim to be part of Islam's teachings. That was regarding lines 1 to 4. Now, the next segment, lines 5 to 9, begin with the author addressing a person who desires to lead others in knowledge. To lead others. And this could be understood as a reference to imparting knowledge. This is because when you spread knowledge to others, they are the ones following your lead, while you are the one who is leading them. The author, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, يا من يريد أن يسود غيره في العلم ناشرا لكل خيره أخلص لربك وأعل همتك ترى المواهب تحل ساحتك فالجد منك ثم فتح الباب من ربك المهيمن الوهاب قد وعد المجاهدين بالهدى قال لنهدينهم فاسترشدا فالجد وحده يكون مهملا إن لم يكن بالفتح منه مكملا. The way we render that into English is, I say to anyone who desires to lead others in knowledge, spreading its goodness to all, ensure that your intention is purely devoted to your Lord, and keep your aspirations high. When you do that, you will find yourself gifted with aptitude. The diligence required has to come from you, and then the opening of the gates comes from your Lord, the all-aware witness to everything, the one who bestows abundantly. He promised his guidance to those who struggle in his path. As he stated, we will most surely guide them. So seek direction from this. Thus recognize that your diligence alone will be futile if it is not brought to completion by the opening of the gates, which comes from Allah. Here, in the portion that we rendered into English, reference is made to an ayah, and we translated that as saying, we will most surely guide them. We will most surely guide them. This is a reference to the meaning of Allah's statement in Surah Al-Ankabut, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. And regarding those who have struggled for us, Allah, we will most surely guide them to the paths that lead to us. And regarding those who have struggled for us, Allah, we will most surely guide them to the paths that lead to us. This is ayah 69 in Surah Al-Ankabut. Some scholars explain this to mean, and regarding those who have acted in compliance with the knowledge they already have, Allah will most surely guide them to what they do not yet have knowledge of. Other scholars explained it to mean, and regarding those who have struggled to acquire knowledge of Islam, Allah will most surely guide them to the paths of acting in compliance with that knowledge. Some scholars also commented that the ayah alludes to the fact that if an individual is diligent in striving to acquire knowledge of Islam, the guidance and assistance that Allah would grant him are beyond what he can accomplish based on just his own effort. That guidance and assistance would facilitate acquiring knowledge for him, since seeking knowledge of Islam is part of struggling in Allah's path. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. And regarding those who have struggled for us, Allah, we will most surely guide them to the paths that lead to us. And regarding the segment we just read, mention was made here of the concept that Allah is the one who allows means to have their desired effects in order for objectives to be achieved. Allah is the one who allows means to have their desired effects in order for objectives to be achieved. The means to completion of yourself is you being diligent in acquiring knowledge. The means to completion of others is you imparting knowledge to them and allowing the objective of completion to be achieved by those means happens if Allah lets it happen. Thus, we must beseech Allah to enable us to achieve our objectives even while we pursue all of the means that lead to bringing them about. In the final segment of poem 1, lines 10 to 16, the author supplicates for the type of student who embodies various traits. And he then concludes with a general supplication that encompasses all who tread the path of knowledge. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, فَرَحِمَ اللَّهُ الْكَرِيمُ مَنْ غَدَى في مثل هذا العصر قد تجرد في طلب العلم الشريف معرضا عن كل ما يلهي والدنيا رافضا مشمرا عن ساق جد جاثيا بين يدي أولي الرشاد واعيا وكاتبا جميع ما يسمعه من الفوائد التي تنفعه وحافظا مذاكرا ما نقل مع رفقائه الهداة النبلاء فإن ذا يحظى بفتح الباب من ربه الكاشف ذي الحجاب نسألك اللهم أن تكرمنا بالعلم والتقوى وجنة الهنا. We render that into English as, may Allah the most generous have mercy upon anyone who, during a time like the present, devotes his intentions purely to Allah while seeking the honored knowledge of Islam, turning away from all distraction and refusing to let his purpose be the things of this world, remaining diligent, kneeling down as he sits before the possessors of guidance, listening attentively, making note of every point he hears which is to his advantage, and then memorizing what he wrote and revising it with his esteemed peers of sound guidance. That is the person who will have the gates opened for him by his Lord, who removes all barriers. O Allah, you alone are the one we beseech to honor us with knowledge, taqwa, and Jannah, which is the abode of true happiness. This segment began with the author making reference to a time like the present. Now, the poem's author, our teacher, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Adam, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, passed away 3.5 years ago. So he is from a time very close to the present, and he was alive to witness and make use of many developments that Allah decreed in the contemporary world. Although it is true that our time is rife with many distractions and numerous instances of strife, it is also true that resources for acquiring knowledge of Islam have become more prevalent and accessible than ever before. Perhaps a significant jump in that regard may have also occurred during the last few years as a result of COVID circumstances. Ultimately, the reality is that we now have access to searchable text for thousands upon thousands of books that scholars authored in Arabic, spanning all sizes. Access to scanned copies of such books. Access to scanned manuscripts for many of those books. Access to millions of recordings of scholars from the present and the not so distant past. Access to excerpts from such recordings that are related to precise issues and topics. Access to applications and programs that make it possible to do things very quickly with such resources, which would have taken huge amounts of time in the past. Access to real-time teachers in both group and individual settings. And in quite a number of cases, access to those things is practically free. Thus, in a time like the present, the opportunity is to be seized while taking heed of the guidelines mentioned. In this segment, lines 10 to 16 of Poem 1, the guidelines included 1. Making Allah our purpose for learning about Islam. Making Allah our purpose for learning about Islam. 2. Avoiding what distracts us from that purpose. 3. Refusing to let things of this world be our purpose for learning. 4. Maintaining diligence in all aspects related to learning. 5. Maintaining humility towards teachers. 6. Listening well. 7. Taking effective notes. 8. Memorizing by ourselves the things we wrote in our notes. 9. Revising with other diligent individuals the things that we wrote and learned. And 10. Asking Allah to unlock for us the means in such a way that they produce their fruits in this world as well as their fruits in the hereafter. Asking Allah to unlock for us the means, knowledge and comprehension in such a way that the means, the knowledge and the comprehension produce their fruits in this world, fulfilling Allah's commands and avoiding His prohibitions. That's taqwa. As well as their fruits in the hereafter, being admitted to Jannah. That's how the last line concluded. To honor us with knowledge, taqwa, and Jannah, which is the abode of true happiness. Now, the title of the preceding poem, Poem 1, teaching a student how to have the gates of knowledge and comprehension open, indicated that it pertained to all disciplines of Islamic knowledge in general. The title of the second poem might indicate that it is confined to just one discipline. However, its content appears to indicate that it could apply to other disciplines as well, and Allah knows best. The second of these two very short Arabic poems can be found on page 29 in part 1 of the book entitled Al-Fawaid al-Samiyya. The second poem is entitled فائدة في إرشاد طالبي علم الحديث إلى طريق فتح بابي, which we rendered into English as directing the student of hadith on how to have its gates open. We will read through this poem in two segments. The first segment will be from line 1 to line 4. The first segment will consist of lines 1 to 4. The author, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, يا أيها العزيز فاعلم أنه لا بد في ذا الفن أن تتقنه ملازما مجالس الحفظة محترما لهم بلا أنفة بالحفظ والفهم وللتقوى الزمي مع التواضع لكل مسلم مذاكرا بالفهم مع أولي الهدى مجانبا ذوي الخبال والردى. We render that meaning into English by saying, my dear one, you must know that when it comes to this discipline, it is imperative for you to gain proficiency in it by regularly attending the gatherings of those who have preserved its knowledge, remaining respectful towards them without any disdain, memorizing, comprehending, always observing taqwa, and maintaining humility towards every Muslim, revising with comprehension along with others of sound guidance, and avoiding individuals who are corrupt and destructive. This segment, lines 1 to 4, contain a number of guidelines of a similar nature to ones in the previous poem. Some in this poem are new, while some preceded. 1, gaining proficiency in the discipline being studied. 2, learning directly from those recognized for knowledge of that discipline. 3, maintaining full respect for teachers. 4, memorizing what you learn. 5, comprehending what you learn. 6, observing taqwa, meaning fulfilling Allah's commands and avoiding His prohibitions. 7, maintaining humility towards all people who submit to Allah and Islam. 8, revising with other individuals known for diligence and comprehension. And 9, avoiding people whose beliefs, statements, or actions Islam's teachings consider blameworthy. In the next and final segment of this second poem, lines 5 to 8, the author mentions what a student is to do in the situation where no one else is available to revise with. And he concludes with a supplication once again. The author, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, إن لم تجد مذاكرا فلتلزمي مطالعا كلام أهل القدم فإن من رزق أن يطالع كلامهم بالحفظ والفهم معا فإنه ينال فتح الباب من ربه الكاشف للحجاب نسألك اللهم أن تجعلنا من فيض هذا الفن قد نلنا المنى. We rendered that meaning into English by saying, if you find none to revise with, then you must continue poring over the statements of the well-versed scholars. Since anyone who has been blessed to peruse their words with both memorization and comprehension will certainly have the gates opened for him by his Lord who removes all barriers. O Allah, we implore you alone to enable us to achieve our aspirations in this expansive field. Here, the last guideline mentioned was to remain constant in acquainting oneself with what has been said by scholars who are recognized for their knowledge of the discipline being studied. Scholars who are recognized for their knowledge of the discipline being studied. Factors that the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, reiterated here are memorizing what was learned and also comprehending what was learned. This brings us to the end of reading through these two very short poems. And in concluding this majlis, one of the things I would like to mention is connected to the fact that the date is the 14th of Sha'ban. It's the 14th of Sha'ban. That means that tonight, insha'Allah, will be the middle night of this lunar month called Sha'ban. And I wanted to share a hadith which we may be aware of. Among the places where some detailed referencing and discussion of this hadith can be found is the book of the esteemed, revered scholar Sheikh Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani, rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy upon him. His book entitled Silsilatul Ahadith al-Sahiha, that can be found under numbers 1144 as well as 1563. Discussion can be found under both of those numbers. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah mention him with commendation and grant protection, said, يَطَّلِعُ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى إِلَى خَلْقِهِ لَيْلَةَ النِّصْفِ مِنْ شَعْبَانَ فَيَغْفِرُ لِجَمِيعِ خَلْقِهِ إِلَّا لِمُشْرِكٍ أَوْ مُشَاهِدٍ. Allah, the owner of limitless blessings and the most exalted, looks at his creation during the middle night of the lunar month, Sha'ban. And he then grants forgiveness to all of creation except for someone who ascribes partners to Allah or someone who harbors hatred. This hadith is something we should keep in mind. At this time and at all times, we implore Allah to make us among the people whom He grants us forgiveness, and we seek refuge with Allah against being people who do things that would prevent them from being forgiven. In light of events in the world as well that have been going on now for some months, there is an authentic hadith that can be found in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, the book Al-Adab al-Mufrad by Imam al-Bukhari, and other scholars as well. May Allah have mercy upon all of them. The hadith is a dua that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may Allah mention him with commendation and grant protection, had made after the defeat of the mushrikun at the Battle of Uhud. And although those were the circumstances in which the dua was made, it still remains very relevant in other circumstances as well. And I wanted to read it out. Inshallah, it speaks for itself. And we beseech Allah to grant us steadfastness in adhering to the teachings of the Quran and Sunnah and adhering to the path of the Salaf in all regards. We implore Allah to grant that guidance to us ourselves, to grant that guidance to all of our brothers and our sisters in all parts of the world. This hadith I wanted to share was narrated by the Sahabi Rifa'a ibn Rafi' al-Zurqi. May Allah be pleased with him. He had said that when it was the day on which the Battle of Uhud took place, and the army of the Mushrikun, those who ascribe partners to Allah, had been defeated, Allah's Messenger, may Allah mention him with commendation and grant him protection, said, "Make straight roads so that I may praise my Lord." As a result, those with him formed rows behind him, and he then said, "Allahumma laka alhamdu kulluhu." O Allah, all praise belongs to you. Allahumma la qabida lima basatta wa la basita lima qabadta. O Allah, none can restrict what you spread forth, and none can spread forth what you restrict. ولا هادي لمن أضللت ولا مضل لمن هديت. None can guide anyone whom you allow to stray, and none can lead astray anyone whom you guide. ولا معطي لما منعت ولا مانع لما أعطيت. None can grant what you withhold, and none can withhold what you grant. ولا مقرب لما باعدت ولا مباعد لما قربت. None can draw near what you distance, and none can distance what you draw near. اللهم ابسط علينا من بركاتك ورحمتك وفضلك ورزقك. O Allah, I implore you to spread forth for us your blessings, your mercy, your bounty, and your provision. اللهم إني أسألك النعيم المقيم الذي لا يحول ولا يزول. O Allah, I earnestly implore you for lasting blessings that will never change or come to an end. اللهم إني أسألك النعيم يوم العيلة والأمن يوم الخوف. O Allah, I earnestly implore you for your blessings on the day of need, and for your security on the day of fear. اللهم إني عائذ بك من شر ما أعطيتنا وشر ما منعتنا. O Allah, I earnestly seek refuge with you against the bad there may be in anything that you have granted us, and against the bad there may be in anything that you have withheld from us. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان وجعلنا من الراشدين. O Allah, I implore you to make us love accepting and complying with the truth, and to make that attractive to our hearts. And I implore you to make us detest rejecting the truth, being defiant towards you and disobeying you. In addition, I implore you to make us among those who follow sound direction. اللهم توفنا مسلمين وأحينا مسلمين وألحقنا بالصالحين وغير خزايا ولا مفتونين. O Allah, I implore you to allow us to die submitting to you in Islam, and allow us to live submitting to you in Islam. And I implore you to join us with the righteous without subjecting us to disgrace or trials. اللهم قاتل الكفرة الذين يكذبون رسلك ويصدون عن سبيلك واجعل عليهم رجزك وعذابك. O Allah, I implore you to fight those who reject the truth from you, those who persist in rejecting your messengers and obstructing people from your path. And I implore you to send your wrath and torment upon them. اللهم قاتل الكفرة الذين أوتوا الكتاب. O Allah, I implore you to fight those who reject the truth from you, even though they received scriptures from you. إله الحق You are the one whom I call upon, the only deity who has the right to be worshipped, and the one who is the absolute truth. To conclude our majlis, there are two more hadith I would like to mention, and both of these are probably well known to all of us, inshallah. Abdullah bin Umar, may Allah be pleased with both of them, had said that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah mention him with commendation and grant protection, would rarely stand to leave a gathering until he said the following supplication for his companions. اللهم اقسم لنا من خشيتك ما يحول بيننا وبين معاصيك. O Allah, grant us a share of fearing you with understanding, which prevents us from disobeying you. ومن طاعتك ما تبلغنا به جنتك. And grant us a share of obedience to you, by which you allow us to reach the abode of paradise that you have prepared for your obedient worshipping servants. ومن اليقين ما تهون به علينا مصيبات الدنيا. And grant us a share of certainty by which you alleviate for us the adversities of this world. ومتعنا بأسماعنا وأبصارنا وقوتنا ما أحييتنا واجعله الوارث منا. And enable us to benefit from our hearing, our sight, and our strength for as long as you keep us alive. And allow that benefit to remain all the way until we leave this world. وَاجْعَلْ ثَأْرَنَا عَلَى مَنْ ظَلَمَنَا. And enable us to regain our rights from those who have done us injustice. وَانْصُرْنَا عَلَى مَنْ عَادَانَا. And support us against those who are hostile towards us. وَلَا تَجْعَلْ مُصِيبَتَنَا فِي دِينِنَا. And do not cause us to be afflicted in our religion. وَلَا تَجْعَلِ الدُّنْيَا أَكْبَرَ هَمِّنَا وَلَا مَبْلَغَ عِلْمِنَا. And do not cause this world to be our greatest concern or the farthest extent of our knowledge. وَلَا تُسَلِّطْ عَلَيْنَا مَنْ لَا يَرْحَمُنَا. And do not give authority over us to anyone who would not be merciful towards us. The final hadith, the second of the two I wanted to share, is the hadith in which Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, had said that when the Messenger of Allah, may Allah mention him with commendation and grant protection, had finished sitting for a time or had finished praying, he would say particular words. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, asked him about what the words were. And he said, if a person said good things, the following words would be a seal upon those good things until the day of resurrection. However, if a person said other than good things, the following words would be a means of expiation. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. I declare that you are perfect in every way, O Allah, and I do so with your praise. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped except you. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayka. I ask for your forgiveness and I repent to you. This brings us to the conclusion of this majlis that was part of this seminar conducted by my younger brother in Islam, Abul Awza'i, Abdus Salam, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala. May Allah, the Most Exalted, preserve him. And ask Allah to reward him for his endeavors and to keep him steadfast upon the path of Islam and upon the path of the Salaf. And I ask Allah to accept that which has been presented and to have mercy upon our teacher, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Adam, as well as upon all the scholars of Islam. They're part of the light that Allah allows to shine that we are able to draw from, and by which we are able to see our way through the things that we have to face in this life. We implore Allah to keep all of us steadfast upon the truth, upon Islam, upon the Quran, upon the Sunnah, and upon the beliefs, statements, and actions of the Salaf, the foremost generations of Islam. I also ask Allah to allow this seminar to be part of something that will continue by His permission and would serve as part of the keys to knowledge. And I implore Allah to unlock for us the gates that were mentioned in these poems that we read. We implore Allah to unlock for us the gates of knowledge and comprehension, and to make what we acquire from beyond those gates things that will be in our favor in this life, and especially when the day comes when we have to meet Allah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. I declare that you are perfect in every way, O Allah, and I do so with your praise. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped except you. I ask for your forgiveness.